Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. She stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, looking at me like I was some broken appliance she regretted purchasing. Do what I ask, she said slowly, like I needed help understanding. Then you get me. No anger, no emotion, just a blank stare as if she were reading terms and conditions off a screen. It was 11:43 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was microwaving a leftover burrito while scrubbing the grout in our kitchen tiles. Something she put on a color-coded checklist stuck to the fridge. It was task number 14 out of 21. The reward, her attention apparently. I blinked at her and said almost under my breath, "I don't need a slot machine." She didn't laugh, she didn't frown, she just walked away like I hadn't said anything at all. And somehow that silence hurt more than if she'd screamed. That was 4 months ago, and I've been spiraling ever since, not because she said something cruel, but because I realized that for years I've been quietly accepting this system, this conditional affection. Like love was a loyalty program: wash the car, get a smile, make dinner, get a kiss on the cheek, pay the bills. Maybe, just maybe, I get a night where she doesn't turn away from me in bed. The truth is, I was terrified of saying no, terrified of being alone, terrified of what I'd find if I opened my eyes all the way. But after that night, something shifted. Little things started clicking together like puzzle pieces that had been scattered for years. The 3 locked folders on her laptop, her weekly yoga nights, even though she'd quit the studio 6 months earlier, her sudden obsession with privacy, her smile that no longer reached her eyes. I wanted to believe I was just imagining it. Then one Sunday, I walked past her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed with a message preview, just one line, still on for Friday. "Can't wait to see you again." She was in the shower, and I did nothing. I sat on the couch, opened my laptop, and ordered a 6-pack of air fresheners I didn't need because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. I was unraveling quietly internally, but not for long. Because what happened that Friday? It tore the roof off the illusion I'd been living under. Friday came with the kind of stillness that makes your stomach tighten even when nothing has technically happened yet. I couldn't eat, I couldn't work. I kept refreshing my email like maybe there'd be some magical reset, some sign that I was wrong, but I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. Mallory was different that day. She hummed in the kitchen while sipping her oat milk latte, dressed way too nicely for what she claimed was a quick Target run. Burgundy lipstick, perfume she only wore on birthdays, and those heel boots I didn't even know she still owned. I asked softly, "Target?" She smiled like I was the most pitiful man on earth and said, "Yeah, I might stop by that plant shop too. You know, the one by Fifth." Then kissed the top of my head. I didn't flinch, but my heart did. At 6:07 p.m., the front door clicked shut, and I just stood there in the hallway staring at it. Every bone in my body screamed to follow her to finally confront this slow-motion betrayal that had been unfolding like a quiet storm. But I didn't. I froze again. I went to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, then shut it off. My hands were shaking. I couldn't keep pretending this was normal. And then I remembered the text. Still on for Friday. I pulled up her laptop. She had changed the password. Of course she had. My stomach dropped, not because I couldn't get in, but because that meant she had something to hide, something recent and intentional. I sat back on the couch, heart thudding so loud it hurt. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my brother. He's the exact opposite of me: confident, opinionated, unapologetic. "Wendell," he said the second he picked up, "you sound like you've seen a ghost." I told him everything: the checklist marriage, the slot machine comment, the suspicious texts, the locked laptop. I braced for laughter. Instead, he said, "You need to stop playing house with someone who's already moved out emotionally." Then he asked a question I wasn't ready for. "Do you want the truth or your dignity first?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A photo from an unknown number. Mallory laughing, holding hands with someone I didn't recognize at a bar. The caption, "Still on for Friday." My chest tightened. The world didn't crash, it just went silent. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just stared at the image, and for the first time, I felt completely detached from the man in my own house. I had become an extra in my own life story, and I was so tired of being quiet about it. I stood up, looked around the house. Our house, the one I paid for. The one she decorated like a magazine spread while making me feel like the mess in every corner. And then I opened the hall closet, pulled out the small cardboard box I'd kept untouched for years, labeled Wendell's stuff. Inside my birth certificate, a savings bond from my grandma, and a leather notebook I hadn't written in since the first year of our marriage. I took a pen and wrote one sentence. Tonight I'm done pretending. And just like that, the switch finally flipped. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept staring at that photo. Her smile wasn't fake, it was real. It was the kind of smile I hadn't seen in years. Not once directed at me. And the man beside her, mid-30s maybe. Tight shirt, sleeve tattoo, smug face like he knew she was taken and didn't care. Maybe that made it more exciting for both of them. I kept asking myself, was I really that easy to replace? Or had I already been replaced long before I noticed? The next morning, she came home like nothing happened. Hair messy in a way she never let me see it. Sweatshirt that wasn't hers, and a coffee cup from a place across town, one I know she never liked. She looked surprised to see me sitting at the dining table. I said nothing, just stared. She gave me a quick, disinterested glance, muttered something about traffic, and walked upstairs. That was it. Not even a lie, just indifference. I don't know what I expected. A confession, a breakdown, some twisted justification about how we grew apart. No, she didn't owe me an explanation because in her mind I had already been demoted to background noise. And the worst part, I let it happen. But then that same afternoon, I got a second message from the unknown number. This time it was a video. I didn't want to open it. I should have deleted it, but I did open it. And the second I hit play, I felt something twist inside me. So tight I could barely breathe. It was her sitting on some guy's lap in a booth, laughing, sipping wine. His hand was on her thigh under the table. She leaned in and whispered something in his ear. He nodded. She said clear as day. He'll do whatever I say. I don't even have to lie. I just dangle myself like a prize. He never questions it. I paused the video. I couldn't watch the rest. I felt sick. I wasn't angry. No, not yet. I was humiliated. I was being mocked by the one person who once promised to love me, who told me she believed in growing together. And now she was out there bragging that I was easy to control, like I was some puppy who wagged his tail for scraps. That night, I didn't confront her. Instead, I began gathering. Not evidence, not revenge, just truth. I needed to see just how deep the betrayal went. I started by checking our shared bank account, which I hadn't touched in weeks. She had drained over $4,000 in the last month alone. Fancy dinners, ride-share apps, weekend getaways booked under her maiden name. I sat there, heart pounding, scrolling through charges she never mentioned. Not once. She wasn't even hiding it. Well, that's how little she thought of me. That's how far I'd fallen in her eyes. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I found the email. It was a confirmation from a moving company. Final pickup scheduled for next Tuesday. A storage unit address, a new zip code. She was already moving out. But here's the twist. It wasn't to live alone, it was under his name. She was moving in with the guy from the photo, and she hadn't even told me yet. The worst betrayals aren't loud. They don't come with screaming or broken dishes. They slip in quietly through the cracks you ignored for too long. That's how it felt when I saw the name on the lease agreement, Jordan Lane. I had never heard of him before, not once. But according to the paperwork Mallory had filed, she'd be moving into his condo in less than 5 days. The same Mallory who still kissed me goodbye before work. The same Mallory who told my mother she was just tired lately. She had already started a new chapter before I even finished the last sentence of ours. I stared at the document for 10 minutes, maybe longer. There was a note at the bottom, typed casually. Utilities to be transferred before Monday. As if leaving your husband wasn't a big deal, just something to squeeze in between brunch and a nail appointment. I wondered if she'd packed already, if the red suitcase she kept hidden behind the closet was filled with clothes for him, if she planned to ghost me in my own house. I needed air. I walked outside and just sat on the front steps. A neighbor waved. I waved back like nothing was wrong. And in that moment, I realized how invisible heartbreak really is. No one sees it. No one asks. They just assume your life is quietly rolling forward, not splintering inside. That night, I couldn't look at her without feeling nauseous. She was in her robe texting someone with a smirk on her face, probably Jordan. I wanted to ask her why him. Why now? What did I do to deserve this? But I didn't, because she would have twisted it into another reason to justify leaving. Instead, I watched. I listened. I observed every little detail like a man taking mental photographs of a crime scene. The next day, she was gone again. Meeting some friends, she said. No names, no time, just a vague excuse. I waited 20 minutes. Then I opened the drawer by her side of the bed. I found her spare phone, the one she thought I didn't know about. I unlocked it using her old birthday. She never changed it. And that's when I saw everything. Messages to Jordan that made my skin crawl. Photos, voicemails, plans. She wasn't hesitating, she was invested. She had been telling him how boring I was, how she felt like she was mothering a man-child. She even joked about how easy it was to manipulate me. He still thinks we're going through a rough patch, she wrote in one thread. Poor Wendell, he's trying so hard. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. It was either that or scream. But then there was one message that froze me. It was from Jordan and it said, "Does he know we met before the separation?" And she replied, "No, he still thinks I met you this year. Let's keep it that way." I reread it twice. My jaw tightened. I hadn't just been lied to, I'd been set up. The marriage hadn't collapsed. It had been replaced before it even began to crumble. And I knew in that moment that she wasn't just leaving me. She had been gone for a long time. I nodded, told her to have fun. Inside, I was already breaking because I knew exactly where she was going. And it wasn't with the girls. The day of her birthday, she left early. Too early for a dinner. She wore heels, lipstick, a gold necklace I'd given her years ago when things still felt real. I watched her walk out without so much as a goodbye. And I just sat there on the couch alone. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything until 6:43 p.m. when my phone buzzed again. Another message, same number. Thought you might want to see who she's really with tonight. Attached was a photo, Mallory laughing with Jordan at a rooftop bar. They were toasting something. Maybe her freedom. Maybe the fact that I was still in the dark in her mind. But I wasn't anymore. I had been in the dark too long, and now I saw everything clearly. But what got me wasn't just the photo. It was the message beneath it. Ask her about the trip she took to Atlanta last spring. Atlanta. That word made my spine stiffen. She told me it was a work retreat. 3 days, no signal, all women. I remembered how she came back distant, annoyed with me for asking how it went. She said I was too clingy. I let it go. I always let it go. I couldn't anymore. I went back to the spare phone and scrolled through older messages. I don't know why I hadn't done it before. There it was. March 12th. Jordan, can't wait to see you tonight. Room 317, same hotel as last time. Mallory, don't forget the rose and I'll wear the red thing. I felt something hollow out inside me. That Atlanta trip wasn't the beginning. It was a continuation of something they'd started long before I even suspected. She lied to my face, slept beside me, laughed at my jokes, kissed me goodnight, all while sneaking off to be someone else with someone new. I went to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her side of the closet. It was half empty. Some of her shoes were gone, her favorite hoodie, a few necklaces. She was moving piece by piece, so I wouldn't notice the whole thing missing until it was too late. And it almost was. But I wasn't going to wait for her to leave me in silence. If she wanted a show, she was going to get one. And her birthday would be the perfect stage. I grabbed my notebook. Not the one with the sad journaling, the other one. The one I kept for lists, plans, things I never thought I'd need again. And at the top of a blank page, I wrote 3 words. Make her speak. I stayed up the entire night before her return, not pacing, not crying, planning. Something inside me had shifted. I was done being the soft-spoken fool who kept swallowing pain just to keep the peace. Mallory had taken too much for too long. My trust, my dignity, my voice. And I was finally going to take something back. Not revenge, not violence, just truth. Truth presented in a way that couldn't be twisted or gaslit or conveniently ignored. The house was dark when she came home. I turned off every light except for one, the hallway bulb near the stairs. It flickered slightly, casting long, shifting shadows across the entryway. She stepped in, wearing that navy blue dress and heels that clacked against the hardwood like an unwanted metronome. She was holding a gift bag. I wondered if it was from Jordan. Perfume, lingerie, I didn't care. "Why is it so dark?" she called out, placing her keys in the bowl by the door. Her voice was steady, bored even. She didn't know what was coming. I didn't answer from the couch. I waited. She walked into the living room and froze when she saw what was on the coffee table. Photos printed, lined up neatly. Her with Jordan at the rooftop bar. Her holding hands with him at the park. Her in Atlanta outside a hotel entrance. All time-stamped, all undeniable. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I spoke before she could find words to reshape the narrative. "I know everything," I said, calm stone. "Not just about him, about Atlanta, about the moving truck, about how long this has been going on." Mallory blinked, then did what she always did, tried to pivot. "I can explain." "No," I said, "you already did. In texts, in photos, in lies." She took a step forward. "Wendell, you're blowing this out of proportion. You've been distant for months. We're not happy. This was just... It wasn't planned." I chuckled. Actually chuckled. "Not planned. You booked movers, opened a new joint account, changed your mailing address. You made sure I wouldn't notice until you were gone. I didn't want to hurt you." "That's rich," I said. "You didn't want to hurt me, but you let me rub your feet the night you came back from Atlanta. You looked me in the eye while calling me sweet, all while texting him under the table." She was quiet, and then in that eerie Mallory way, she got cold like a switch had been flipped. She straightened her shoulders, narrowed her eyes. "So what now? You want to punish me? Ruin my life because I moved on?" I stared at her. "No, I want something much simpler, which is the truth, in front of people." That's when she noticed the blinking red light in the corner of the room. A tiny GoPro hidden behind a bookshelf plant recording, capturing every word. She lunged for it, but I was faster. "I already have a backup," I said. "It's not about posting this. It's about having a version of this story that you don't get to edit." Her face flushed red, not from shame but from panic. Control was slipping from her fingers and she knew it. "I'll tell everyone you're unhinged," she hissed. "Do it," I said, "but make sure to explain the photos and the texts and why you never told me you were leaving until I found out on my own." Mallory didn't speak. She just stood there, her birthday makeup smeared slightly under one eye, the gift bag still swinging from her wrist. She looked less like the woman I married and more like a stranger caught shoplifting a life she never fully earned. And in that silence, something even bigger dawned on me. She wasn't sorry, not for what she did, only for being caught. Mallory sat down slowly, like the air had been sucked out of her. Her face didn't carry shame. It carried calculation. She was scanning the room, trying to gauge how much damage had been done. I didn't move. I didn't yell. I just watched her unravel. "You blindsided me," she finally whispered. "That's low, Wendell." I almost laughed at the irony. Blindsided. I had been living in a relationship where I was the only one playing by the rules, and she had the audacity to act like she was the victim. My hands clenched, but I didn't let myself get dragged into one of her scripted guilt traps. "I didn't record you to hurt you," I said. "I did it to protect myself, so when you twist the truth later, I have proof that I wasn't imagining all of this." She looked at me with that same expression she used when waiters got her order wrong. Disdain dressed up as indifference. "So what do you want, Wendell? You want me to beg, cry, say I made a mistake?" I shook my head. "No, I just want honesty one time. That's it. No lies, no excuses, just the truth." Mallory rolled her eyes and leaned back. "Fine, you want it. Here it is. Yes, I started talking to Jordan before Atlanta. Yes, I slept with him that weekend. And yes, I've been planning to leave you for months, but I didn't tell you because I knew you'd fall apart. You're too delicate, and I couldn't deal with the drama." I don't know what I expected, but her honesty hit harder than the lies. It was like being hit with cold water after drowning in warm denial. I stayed quiet. I needed her to finish. "I outgrew you," she said softly, almost like she was trying to sound poetic. You stopped challenging me. You became comfortable, predictable. I didn't want to be a caretaker for a man who never figured out what he wanted. I finally stood up, heart pounding but steady. And yet you stayed, took the house, the joint account, my time, my trust. You could have left. Mallory shrugged. It was easier this way. Easier. That one word shattered the last piece of me, holding on to any memory of who we used to be. I wasn't heartbroken anymore. I was humiliated. But underneath that, something stronger was growing. Clarity. I nodded slowly, then handed her an envelope. Inside was a letter I'd written earlier that week. Not just a goodbye, but a notice. I was moving out. The lease on a small place across town was already signed. The utilities in my name, my essentials already packed in the trunk of my car. She had been planning her escape, but I had quietly planned mine too. Her face fell. Wait, you're leaving? Yeah, I said. You made it clear you've already checked out. I'm just making it official. For the first time that night, she looked stunned. Not because she lost me, but because she didn't get to be the one who walked away first. Mallory never planned for me to leave. She planned to replace me quietly, neatly, without resistance. But I was done being the easy one. Mallory didn't speak for a long time after I told her I was leaving. She just stared at the envelope like it had insulted her. Maybe it did. Maybe it offended her that I wasn't falling apart, begging her to stay or chasing the ghost of the woman I married. That silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It was empty, like two strangers waiting for an elevator on different floors of life. She finally asked, "So you're just done?" And I said, "No, I was done a long time ago. I just didn't know it until now." That night I didn't sleep in the guest room. I slept in my car. Everything I needed was already packed. 3 duffel bags, my notebook, and a laptop that still had bookmarks to articles I never finished reading. I drove to the new place at 2:17 a.m. No music playing, just the hum of a man who had finally stopped lying to himself. The apartment was small, 2 rooms, carpet that needed replacing, but it felt like air. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I was walking on my own terms. I stood in the middle of that quiet room, dropped my bags, and actually laughed. Not because I was happy, but because I finally remembered what breathing felt like. In the days that followed, I started to write again. Not just rants or regrets, real thoughts, honest ones. I saw my brother more. I told my mum the truth. I unfollowed Mallory on everything and deleted the photos. Not to erase the past, but to stop worshipping a version of love that never loved me back. As for Mallory, she moved in with Jordan just as planned. I heard through mutual friends that things got complicated fast. Money fights, trust issues, secrets unraveling. Maybe she finally realized that love isn't a performance review. Or maybe she didn't. It's not my job to wonder anymore. And me, I still flinch at small things. I still check for signs, but I also started sleeping through the night. That alone feels like a miracle. I didn't win anything. There's no revenge arc here. Just a quiet man who remembered how to choose himself after years of being the background character in his own life. So yeah, this is my confession. Not to get pity, not to get applause, but maybe, just maybe, to remind someone watching this that silence isn't strength when it's protecting someone else's lies. Have you ever walked away from someone who thought they'd already replaced you? Tell us in the comments what moment made you say enough. And if this story hit close to home, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Reddit Confessions, because sometimes the most powerful ending is the one where you walk out quietly and never look back.